And welcome to the Public and Protective Services Committee meeting of March 4th. On this committee is myself as acting chair, Councillor Berg, and Mayor Clayton. And we will start with a motion for the adoption of the agenda. I look to Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Chair Blackmore. I would like committee to adopt the agenda as presented.
And that motion does carry. We will move on to, we have no delegations for this meeting today, so I'd move on to Chief Lemieux for the service area update, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So starting with the Grande Prairie Police Service, the GPPS is introducing the Community Standards Unit, a team of 6 trained police officers led by an experienced supervisor, and they're mandated to address the social and civil disorder occurring in our city, primarily downtown and in other affected areas such as the park system. Additionally, this unit will focus on traffic enforcement and all applicable and appropriate provincial legislation and city bylaws that may be adversely affecting Grande Prairie. This unit will be based out of City of 99 starting later this month. From the RCMP, the new officer in charge, Superintendent Steve McLeod, officially started at the detachment last week on Tuesday, February 25th. And Superintendent McLeod transferred from Prince George, BC, and he's excited to be with us in Grande Prairie. Also, the GPPS Recruit Class Number 1, their officer orientation continues with a 3-week training session whereby the new officers will be obtaining their PROS certification and completing multiple other training programs that will enable them to become integrated into the RCMP detachment. From Housing and Community Development, on February 20th, the Youth Advisory Council members delivered a presentation to the Grande Prairie Police Commission highlighting their community involvement in 2023-2024, and they talked about their commitment to improving youth engagement in the community. And again, from Housing and Community Development, as part of the Aging Well Together action plan, which will be presented here shortly to committee, the City of Grande Prairie is partnering with the Grande Prairie Primary Care Network to launch a social prescribing initiative for residents 55 years and older. This program addresses the social determinants of health, helping connect individuals to community supports that complement medical care. The initiative is funded by the Government of Alberta and aims to bridge the gap between healthcare and social services, enhancing overall well-being for older adults in our community. And from Home Support, in January, the city's Home Support program served 262 residents and conducted 10 new assessments. This ensures residents can remain in their own homes with support. From the Recreation Department, on Friday, February 28th, the Eastlink Centre hosted an exciting intermission at the Storm game. Attendees had the chance to learn about membership options and enter to win a 1-year family membership. The engagement continued on March the 1st, the next day, with a special 1-day punch pass promotion offering extra punches based on the number of goals the Storm scored during the game. So all punch passes sold on March 1st were sold at 12 visits for the price of 10 due to the 2 goals scored by the Storm. And from events and programming, the Canadian rock band Theory of a Dead Man will perform a sold-out show at Bose on Wednesday, March the 5th, so tomorrow. And comedy icon Russell Peters is bringing his Relaxed World Tour to Bonnet's Energy Centre on November 8th, 2025, and tickets are on sale now. And the Storm will host Fort McMurray Old Barons this weekend, March 7th and 8th. Then they'll wrap up the regular season on March 14th and 15th against the Lloydminster Bobcats. Storm, and the good news is the Storm have already clinched a playoff spot. And summer camp registration is now open and spots are filling fast. We're already over 40% subscribed. So that's my report, Madam Chair. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Look for my committee members for questions. And I think you're getting off the hook easy today because no one's throwing their hand in the air. We'll move on to item 4.2, Aging Well Together, and I'd hand this back to Chief Lemieux for an introduction.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I'm going to invite Melissa Tucker, our Social Policy Advisor, who prepared the report for us. I'll get her to present the report.
Good morning. I'm pleased to present the City of Grande Prairie's Aging Well Together 2025 priorities and goals, which outlines a shared vision for making Grande Prairie a more age-friendly community. In 2024, administration engaged directly with residents 55 plus to better understand their experiences and challenges. Through surveys and community sessions, we connected with over 400 residents who shared their insights on what matters most to them in building an age-friendly community. From these conversations, 5 key priority areas emerged, highlighting opportunities for focused attention in 2025. These priority areas are accessibility, mobility, and connectivity, communication and technology, affordable living, social participation, recreation and wellness, community supports, and health services. While a full list of the Aging Well Together priorities and goals are outlined in the administrative report and its attachment, I'd still like to provide an overview of each priority area and highlight a few key goals. I also just wanted to mention that many of the goals within these priority areas do build upon the vital work already being done by the city, as well as many of our community partners. Together, we are continuously working to enhance the quality of life for residents. For priority number 1, accessibility, mobility, and connectivity, enhancing accessibility, mobility, and connectivity ensures that residents 55 plus can navigate the community with ease. One of the goals under this priority is that the Eastlink Center will explore the feasibility of piloting priority parking spaces for individuals who do not qualify for parking placards. For priority number 2, communication and technology, this involves improving access to information and digital resources to help residents 55 plus stay informed and connected. One way we will support this is that administration plans to collaborate with Seniors Outreach to develop a printed newsletter specifically for residents 55 plus. For priority number 3, affordable living, this is about supporting residents 55 plus in managing the cost of living, including improving food security and raising awareness of financial resources. This will build on work that's already underway, such as administration will work with Helping Hands and other organizations to strengthen food security efforts, ensuring the unique needs of residents 55 plus are incorporated into the strategic planning. For priority number 4, social participation, recreation, and wellness, the aim is encouraging active lifestyles and meaningful engagement through recreation, intergenerational connections, and civic participation. One of the key goals here is expanding walking groups to promote both physical activity and social connections. Finally, for priority number 5, community supports and health services, the main objective is ensuring residents 55 plus can age in place safely and with dignity through social prescribing and community partnerships. A significant milestone in this priority area is that we will soon be launching a social prescribing program for residents 55 plus. There should be a media release soon providing more details, but this initiative is a partnership between the City of Grande Prairie and the Grande Prairie Primary Care Network, funded by Alberta's Ministry for Seniors, Community and Social Services. Social prescribing connects patients 55 plus with a link worker who can help individuals navigate non-medical community supports that will enhance their overall well-being. This might include helping a resident access Meals on Wheels for a month after they are discharged from the hospital, or accompanying them to the Golden Age Center for the first time if they are wanting to build social connections. In conclusion, the Aging Well Together priorities align with Council's strategic vision for an inclusive and caring community, which includes developing and pursuing opportunities that enhance the quality of life for all ages. The goals outlined under each priority can be achieved within existing budgets and funding agreements and through collaboration with local organizations, businesses, and residents. By taking these steps together, our community is not just planning for the future, we are actively building a Grande Prairie where residents 55 plus feel connected, supported, and valued. Thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Well, thank you, and we do have questions for you. We'll start with Councillor Berg and then Mayor Clayton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Blackmore. This report is excellent in so many ways. I'm relieved to see that we've identified some priorities and some issues, and I Also clicked on the link to go through the 109-page report from May last year. Again, I want to stress how amazing it is, but there's one area that I feel that is just being brushed on, and perhaps that's because the needs are already met. But this may not come as any surprise, but arts and culture seems to be missing in this report. And maybe it's because, again, that's my world, and I just finished a book on Your Brain on Art. And if the chair will indulge me, I'll just summarize a paragraph. People who engage in the arts every few months, such as going to the theater or museum, have a 31% lower risk of dying early when compared with those that don't. Even if you bring the arts into your life only once or twice a year, you're lower mortality risk by 14%. So the arts literally help you live longer. And just citing sources, the American Art Therapy Association and the British Journal of Psychiatry in 2018. So again, it's brushed upon in a few of these things. I would really like to see more focus on it. So maybe at the next council meeting, I might bring forward an amendment to this. I don't have one now. But bottom line, just adding a 17th point to your list of 16, that the arts and culture become a bit more focused or a bit more of a priority. You could summarize it if you want. Maybe it's in there and I just missed it.
Okay, thank you through the chair. No, I think that is a great point. And I think that part of the way that we structured this with priorities was to allow for some flexibility. We would like to see this as something where there is just ongoing conversation and engagement. And, if items are identified that were missed, that are able to be incorporated into this, working with community partners and everything, I think that is wonderful.
Yeah, and there was 10 engagement sessions, which is amazing. Again, I was looking for the question that may have asked around the arts, and again, it wasn't a real priority or focus of some of the questions. So again, excellent report. I love it, and maybe I just live in this world, and that's why I see this gap. But again, great job.
Mayor Clayton?
Thanks, Chair Blackmore. Yeah, just echo Councillor Berg's comments. Great report, great information. Love that we did it internally and didn't go outside to an external resource, which often has costs. I would suggest that we put our branding on this. This is now a public document. Let's own it, because I think it's great. I do also appreciate that you mentioned that all the goals can be done within existing budget parameters. So you're not asking us for more money, which also makes me extremely happy. I'm just wondering in regards to the timelines and the outputs. And so, for example, developing outdoor walking groups. What's your plan with that? Is it a programming thing? And can council get an update on how these are going? Because we're great as an external resource in sharing this information. So maybe tell me some of your timelines. What does it look like? And how can council support you going forward?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. In terms of the exact timelines for walking groups, I will have to come back with more information about that or send an email to Chief Lemieux to follow up on that. But a lot of these conversations have been had internally, and there was definitely a lot of excitement about looking at what we can do immediately for walking groups. The plan for these priorities was to outline goals that could be achieved in 2025. And then with the intention that, yes, we would come back in Q4, if that works, to be able to provide an update.
Just if I could, Chair. Great to hear that these are 2025 goals and not just the walking group. I'm assuming if this is approved today, the appropriate departments are implementing these into their operations.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, and great. I just asked that this council would appreciate an update prior to the election, as this is a priority of this council. So we'd like to know how it's going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I also have one question. I noticed that you did a number of public engagement sessions with 177 residents, which is an excellent return on public engagement. So thank you for doing that well. I'm curious whether or not, you did mention primary care network, whether or not you facilitated those stakeholder engagements with any support from critical care or continuing care in addition to primary care. Or I'm just curious of whether or not you had any support from our health services in those engagement sessions?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, I would have to go back and look exactly at who attended those engagement sessions. I would say, off the top of my head, I don't think that they were in our engagement sessions, but whether there may have been other conversations that were held with them. But for most of this, the Primary Care Network has been our primary partner for the initiatives.
Yeah, I just think that we need to include Alberta Health Services in these conversations because one of the 4 pillars that the province has identified is continuing care. And that would certainly apply to all of the people in this age demographic. But thank you for your report. I don't see, Councillor Bressie has a question.
Great, thank you. I do love that in this report we've got raising awareness of Transit Access Program and the Recreation Access Program. Those are important things a lot of people don't know about. I wonder if there's ever been any consideration or discussion with Seniors Outreach of automatically qualifying for people for those programs when Seniors Outreach does their taxes and realizes they qualify for those.
Thank you for the question through the chair. To my knowledge, I would have to check internally with our department to see if those conversations have ever been had. To my knowledge, I don't think so. That is an interesting idea that we could have more conversations about to see what that might look like.
I know it's something I'll probably bring up again at council on Monday. I'd love to see us move in that direction.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bressie. I see no other questions. Maybe we can do business. Mayor Clayton?
I would move that committee recommend council adopt the Aging Well Together action plan as presented.
That is in order. I'll call a question. That does.
Sorry, before you move on, I'm stepping out. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Tucker, for your presentation today. And we'll move on to wildfire mitigation and move back to Chief Lemieux for an introduction to this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll invite Deputy Chief Mike Anderson and Case DeVries, our Parks Director, for this next report, where we'll talk about, provide committee with an update on the work that's been done in 2024, the work that's planned for 2025, and then motion requesting support from council to continue applying for FRIA grants. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Anderson.
Great, thank you, Mr. Anderson, and jump right in.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Director DeVries and I are here to provide an update on the wildfire mitigation efforts that have been completed through grants provided by the Forest Resource Improvement Association, known as FRIA, and ask council that support the recommended motion as presented. Over the last 2 years, we've been working on 3 scopes of Fire Smart project work to help protect our community. First is the Vegetation Management Grant. This grant aims at reducing fire fuels such as deadfall, underbrush, low-hanging branches. And last year, we were successful in fuel reduction efforts to almost 9 hectares of the forest and South Bear Creek corridor. So the slide here just kind of gives you an outline of what we did in the South Bear Creek corridor. You notice Countryside South and the Aquaterra water treatment plant were our first priority areas. This year, we plan to continue our fire reduction efforts to the very southeast corridor of Bear Creek, close to the Gulf Course area. And what I'd like to provide you with is just a couple pictures of what it looks like before we fire smart an area. So as you can see in the photo, that there's a lot what we call dead and down and a lot of old vegetation. And this is what the area can look like afterwards. So our goal for the future for vegetation management is to continue the fuel reduction efforts through the Bear Creek corridor, as well as moving into the Muskosipi Park corridor based on successful grant funding in the future. So one of the things that we want to note here today is that as we move throughout the South Bear Creek corridor and into the Muskosipi Park corridor, we feel that we won't need to be as aggressive in terms of the fuel management treatment areas. And as we move up the Muskosipi Park corridor, we're looking more like at the dead and down and the old vegetation where we're not going to be clearing the trees all the way up. So we're changing our strategy there. Second one is the non-vegetative management grant. In 2025, we were successful with the FREA grant to provide 200 fire smart home assessments within the city of GP. These home assessments will be on properties that meet the forested or heavily treed areas. The goal of this project is essentially to have a fire smart contractor meet with the homeowner to conduct the home assessments on their property and provide them with information and knowledge to minimize that fuel load within their property. The third scope of work was the fire guard planning and construction. Last year, we were successful in the development of our fire guard plan for our community with our subject matter experts with Silvacom. And what's unique about this plan is that it combines the fire guard principles and generates access points to provide us with timely access to get to the seat of the fire very quickly. So our goal is to essentially create 3.5 meter access trails for us to get our brush one, which is our 4x4 truck, to the seat of the fire before it turns into a larger forest fire. Last year, when we completed the 9 hectares of our fuel reduction in South Bear Creek, our communications and marketing department did a great community engagement plan. And to our knowledge, there was no official concerns brought forward from the community about the work that was completed in the South Bear Creek corridor. For this year's community engagement, our goal is to continue to notify the public in the importance of fuel reduction and our fire guard access activities and to the South Bear Creek corridor. And we're going to continue that with the notification of public. But also what we're going to do is leverage those 200 home assessments and inform the homeowner with a package of what fire smarting activities is going to look like as we move through the South Bear Creek corridor and up into the Muskosipi Park corridors. So with that, I appreciate that we provide you with a lot of information here today with reports and our fire smarting activities as well as a recommendation, and I'd like to open up to any further questions.
I see Councillor Berg has a question, then I have a question, and then Councillor O'Connor has a question. You thought you were going to get away with no questions.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Blackmore. I agree the South Bear and Muskosipi Park are priorities, but I live in the Crystal Lake area, and a couple summers ago we had exceptionally high water levels, and now those water levels have dropped, and a lot of the trees along the lake have died, and so there's an exceptionally large amount of deadfall through there. And of course, we had that fire last year in the park. Thankfully, it was put out quite quickly by our fire department without it spreading towards homes, but I know that there was some concern around that at the moment. Where does Crystal Lake land in your priority list?
Thank you through the chair. So certainly the focus has been and will continue to be with the priority areas south in South Bear Creek. We have had inquiries similar to this for other areas, Crystal Lake notably, as well as O'Brien Lake. So those would be future scopes that we would want to consider as well. But certainly working with the provincial wildland experts on where the priorities lie. And in their opinions, certainly the south corridor moving up through Muskosipi, but there are certainly notable locations as Crystal Lake that would likely be available for future fire smart work as well.
Yeah, because it is a well-used park, and the trees do back right onto a number of homes. So, and they all have shingles, so again, a little bit more susceptible to fire. So, just want to stress that although I realize that there are other greater priorities, that this should also be a priority. Thanks. So
I'm curious what we do with the material that we're removing from the forest floor. I know that traditionally the concept has been that as part of the natural evolution of a forest is that material that lies on the floor turns into duff and eventually becomes soil. So obviously we're interfering with that process. So perhaps you could explain to me what you do with the material and how, you know what the question is.
Thank you, through the chair. It's a great question. In 2023, City Parks Group did some fire smarting initially before looking into the advantages, obviously, that working through the grants has given us. In our processes, we did do a bit of removal, so actually removing the dead and down and taking it off-site, mulching it, and using that as tree mulch for any project that requires it. However, in the recent scopes and continuing forward, the methods that are supported by FRIA as well include basically mulching on site. And so what that does, to your point, is it allows that material to remain on the forest floor so that it can be part of that ecosystem going forward.
Okay. And it breaks down a lot quicker because we've made it smaller and more surface area.
Through the chair, that is correct. It does break down much quicker. There's some thoughts about, well, doesn't that just keep the material there? It does, but if you've ever taken the opportunity to put your hand into a small pile of mulch, it's quite moist. It stays quite moist on the forest floor. And to the experts that we've discussed this with, this method with, both from FRIA and the province, they indicate that that is still an acceptable method to reduce the fire risk.
Okay. Thank you for that, Case. We'll move on to Councillor O'Connor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blackmore. My concern comes around that same question because the forest needs those nutrients. There's a whole biosphere underneath the trees that feed all kinds of nutrients to the trees. So what level of mulch are you leaving there? Because I think that's an important part for the trees to survive in the long run. And are you monitoring the effect on the trees and how long they are affected because of the fire smarting?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, the recommendation from the consultants and the experts that we've discussed with is at least leaving 15 centimeters of that material on the forest floor, which is a fairly decent covering that will help protect the trees that certainly remain. The Parks Department is always active within these natural forest stands, and so in terms of monitoring, we do have crews that do regular maintenance out in these areas. They're well aware of keeping an eye out for any potential outcomes from the fire smart work. So if there are any of these outcomes that are noticed, then we'll certainly circle back to those as time permits.
Okay, thank you very much. And if you get a chance, read the book Finding the Mother Tree by Susan Simard, and it talks about how all the trees work together to help each other. And what's going on beneath the soil is incredible. So I'm glad you're following that practice. Thank you.
Your comments, Councillor O'Connor, kind of make me laugh because Dr. Simard has done amazing work, but the book that she wrote for public consumption is very simplified. Very simplified. I see no other questions, so I would look to Councillor Berg for business.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Blackmore. I'd like to move committee recommend council support the city's grant application to Phase 2 of the Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta, also known as FRIA, and their Community Fire Guard program.
That motion is in order. I'll call a question. And that does carry. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for giving us your time today. I would move on to number 8, outstanding items list, and look to Chief Lemieux to bring us up to date here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I go there, I'd just like to thank the Parks Department and the Fire Department for their teamwork on these very important projects. They work very well together, so I thank both of them for that. There are no changes recommended to the outstanding items list.
I'd look for a motion, Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to move committee receive the March 4th outstanding items list as presented for information.
I'll call a question. And that does carry. With that, this meeting is adjourned, and we'll take a 3 or 4 minute break before moving on to the next meeting.